And we're on. Chantel Rizzardi, thanks for being on Fitness and Consciousness.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I found you on Instagram, and you're doing um, healing with sound, and you're using Tibetan bowls and chakra work, and a lot of very interesting esoteric kinds of healing methods. So, I guess we'll start with the beginning. This is our first time talking, besides just a few minutes before we started recording. So, what is your background? Like, what led you to having the sound be your thing?
Well, it is kind of a long story. I feel like the first time I really got into learning about sound is when I lived in California. I lived in San Francisco for a while, and I had to do a lot of presentations for school, and I have a really quiet voice naturally, so I started taking vocal lessons to make myself louder and that really helped. And I noticed at the same time, around that time, I was having a lot of neck problems, and I started seeing a chiropractor, and that really helped. And I noticed that combining the physical healing of the chiropractic work and yoga and massage, and then also doing music lessons and doing vocal exercises really helped me so much. And my voice became much louder. I had to speak in front of classrooms that were really big, and it's just like the combination of those things really improved my performance. And I just realized that it was a healing experience, actually. So that's kind of where I got started, I suppose.
Yeah, one of the videos I saw of yours was talking about the throat chakra, and like what that means, like esoterically or even like psychologically, I guess. So can you explain like how that fits together with like being able to speak in front of so many people and express yourself and that whole thing? Can you tell us how that works? What it means?
Sure. Yes, the chakras are energetic centers in a person's body, and it's considered to be part of the etheric body rather than the physical body. Most people cannot see chakras. Some people can. I personally have not seen them myself, but they are there, and they are connected to parts of our physical body. And one way that some people explain that is it's the way that source energy connects with our body. And I mean, different people and different schools of thought have different ways of explaining that. But essentially, there's 7 main chakras, and they are all connected to the organs and parts of our body nearby them. And so we have one in our throat area. It's called Vishuddha, and um, it's also, I mentioned in the videos, it's connected to your ears, nose, throat, your thyroid gland, and it is considered a center where if you have blockages to the flow of energy in that area, then you can be stifled, or you can have a hard time expressing your true self. And when it flows and it's energized, then you are able to communicate effectively, and communication leads you to doing what you want to do and getting where you want to be. So it's a very important one. And yeah, each chakra has not only the physical connection, but you can have emotional connections. Like, for example, in the solar plexus chakra, which is down in the stomach, that one is related to the element of fire. And so when the solar plexus chakra is out of balance, then people can be very angry or have very bad tempers, or they can have suppressed strong emotions like that if you go towards the other end of the spectrum. So different chakras also rule different emotional activity, I guess.
And how does the sound, I see you have like a mallet, I don't know if you have like a bowl right by you, but how does the sound, like from the singing bowls, or how do they affect each one? Are you doing like,
Well, the vibration of the bowls, they help to affect these energy centers. Everything that has matter vibrates at the atomic level. And so that's one way that sound can make changes in the body, is by balancing the vibration. So if your vibration is low, usually it's a less pleasurable, less desirable situation, and the vibrations of the bowls, and there's different bowls to correspond to different chakras, they basically just help even them out and get you back into the highest vibration that you can get to, or level out wherever you're vibrating at.
when you were you mentioned music lessons, did it have anything to do with the bowls, or you were talking about some like a different kind of instrument?
This was a few years ago, and I wasn't using instruments at the time. That's just kind of the first time I experienced healing through sound. And I mean, vocal lessons, I guess, aren't really typically thought of as sound therapy, but it really is. Singing, it lifts your mood naturally, and a lot of people know that. So it's just kind of, for me, that was personally my first experience. I didn't realize what was going on until later. So now I would definitely recommend it if someone is having issues with their throat chakra, or even physical problems around the neck. Then vocal lessons are very therapeutic. But I started learning about the sound bowls from a friend of mine who is also a spiritual teacher. She recommended that I get an F note bowl, and I tried it, and it really helped me. I actually took it to a park one day, and I started using my new sound bowl in combination with a mantra that I had found online. And I took it out to this park. I was by myself, and after I started using the bowl and doing the mantra, I literally could feel a change. Like, it was like this bubble came out, and it was like very difficult to describe, but then I knew like something was happening. So you actually can feel the healing effects of sound bowls, and when you combine them with mantras too, it's very powerful. So yeah, you can actually use different notes for, like I said, different chakras. And that one for me just happened to be the F note, and it is typically associated with the sacral chakra. But for what she was recommending for me, she was working with me on my heart chakra. So that one is the E note, but the sacral chakra and heart chakra are very connected. So you could actually use either one for the heart, but that was another really eye-opening experience for me personally.
Yeah, when you said F, I was thinking, I was wondering if you're talking about heart chakra, you kind of put your hand there when you were talking about it also, which made me think that. And still, I was trying to see what the whole connection was with the notes. It is really fascinating how complicated it gets. I've read several books about it. I have one singing bowl, and it is just it's surprising. Like once you can like really play it, how loud it can be. I mean, like you can have like this little bowl, and it just it's amazing what it does. And so I believe that it does have these effects, and it can also be like part of it, you know, your intention of what you want. But there's also does seem to be a real effect from the sound. I mean, it is almost anybody can like experience these different things. You go to, and it's kind of weird. It's not the same for everybody. If I go to, um, you know, if I go to like a concert, like see my favorite band, somebody else hates that band, they're gonna have a completely different reaction to that sound than me. They're gonna be like, God, get me out of here. And I'm like, I want this to last forever. This feels good, and this you know, but if I go to like a rap concert or something, I'm going to be miserable. And you know, everybody else is having a great time, and I'm like, this is horrible. So when you're working with people on these different sounds, do you run into that where you're thinking like, oh, this should work, and then they're like, that kind of that's not working for me, and then you're like, well, maybe we should try this, and okay, this is what we should do. Are there like kind of different philosophies that you use, like depending on the person, or
My style
I
is
saw your
just,
dog creep up on you?
I have a couple dogs running around. Don't mind him, that's Lucky, and he's very quiet most of the time. But my style is just to be very soothing. I mean, you can take a bowl and just bang on it and make like a pots and pans sound, but that's not really what I would try on a therapeutic level. I just go for really calm sounds, and that's what you'll usually find if you go to a sound healer using bowls. It's my approach is to make it kind of like a massage session, you know what I mean? Like you want it to be soothing and harmonious, and it's a very kind of quiet approach. And the bowls, like, they can get louder if you want to do a concert. Like some people do concerts where you can actually heal people as a group and do it in a big room, and that person will probably have very large bowls and a variety of things. Like they might have some wind chimes and a gong and things like that. So that you want to be louder if it's in a big room full of people, but just one-on-one sessions is kind of gonna be more like the music you would expect to hear during a massage or a spa treatment. And you know, you don't want to be too aggressive with the sound, so it just depends on the occasion.
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense that um, it works that way, and it is interesting how it works on these subtle like layers, but you can like feel the difference. Or if like you're going to because you're into like yoga, right? You're doing that also. Do you teach it, and
Yes,
you
I
like,
do one-on-one yoga therapy, and it's more for like healing as well. I don't really teach big classes at studios. I just work with people for specific things, like, again, chakra healing or pain. It's really also helpful for a variety of problems. Like some people have physical symptoms related to chakra blockages, and some people have emotional or whatever is going on. And just knowing that chakra blockages can cause such a variety of different symptoms in people is really what I offer as a combination. It can be just sound therapy, or it can be movement and yoga as well. And so I'm really open to helping people with any issues they have that they suspect is a chakra problem.
Yeah, it's interesting how it all works together and people can feel it. So I started as a personal trainer, like strength conditioning stuff in 1999, and I remember like one of the guys that owned the gym, he was just like, well, yoga is good for stretching, just like completely missed the point of you don't even have to stretch at all, and if to do yoga, it doesn't have to be that. But he was just kind of like that type of guy. But like when people go to these like yoga classes at first, even if they do think, yeah, I just need to get more flexible, they're just looking at it as this very, I just literally need to stretch my legs and hips out. And this yoga class looks like a good place to stretch out my legs, hips, but then like something starts to happen, like they feel different. They're not as reactive. They're not as angry in traffic. They're not as, like, something happens and then like, even if they don't think esoterically at the beginning, like little by little, it starts like chipping away at that, like harder exterior, like it's like blocking out all that other chakras. Oh yeah, right. There's no chakras. It's not real. But like little by little, it's like, yeah, that was weird. I feel like something in my heart. And when I've had like some experience with the chakras, and like I saw the Sahasrara chakra like in a dream state. It was really strange. I wasn't really quite asleep, and that was like this really weird thing. Like I saw like this kind of like purple and like even like maybe greenish, luminescent sort of thing. Like it looked a lot like my brain, but like not quite. And there was this other time, I don't know why this popped into my mind. It's kind of getting off not really off the subject. But I used to drive a cab. And so if I was sitting and waiting, I was reading, a lot of different kinds of books. And I was reading a book, I think it was called Laya Yoga, or maybe something about like micro chakras. Okay. I forget which book it was. But I'm reading this book, and I felt like this drop on my leg. I thought like water or something dripped on my leg. And so I like looked, and I didn't see any water, but I know I felt something. I was like, so, and then I turned to the page and I'm starting to read, and it starts talking about the Guru chakra, or Soma chakra, and how it can, like, if you can feel that, like one way to like know that that's being activated is you might feel a drop somewhere. So like I feel the drop. I'm inside of the car, so nothing's like really dropping. And then like that was really strange. And then I turned the page and it explains it right there. Like, that's pretty wild. And I've had like a bunch of other things happen. So you said you didn't like see them, but you can like really feel them, and you're feeling these different things. So when someone like comes to you and they want, do you think like more like you're doing like kind of like specific, or you're doing like general, or both? If someone comes to you and they have like some kind of problem, maybe it was like with you, they're having trouble expressing themselves and get what they want, or they're having like whatever problem, do you like go and get that particular note of bowl, and then you're using that particular lead, or you're like, what does it actually look like, I guess, when they're coming to you?
Well, I have a bowl for the particular note, but I might do a combination because I mean, really want to treat the whole person. So I always think that it's good to use a combination of all the notes and all the chakras for treatment. And um, like it can be customized. Like they could say, if they already know what they want to treat, like maybe they're saying specifically with chakra, but they might not know. They might just say what's going on with them and ask for help. And I will just kind of determine a ceremony for them. And another thing that I like to use is essential oils with the bowls. So, like for example, right here, I have the solar plexus bowl. It's yellow. This is a crystal bowl, and I have a lemon essential oil that's also yellow, so it's associated with the solar chakra. And I like to use essential oil in the bowl because the vibrations can kind of be they once you start using the bowl with the oils, the vibrations diffuse them and they become very, very fragrant. So you can get aromatherapy at the same time. And different essential oils also, they can loosen up chakras that aren't even in the traditional 7 chakra list. I personally, I don't even know the names of all of the chakras. Different systems have different names and everything, but I know that the combination of the sound with the essential oil is really, really effective. And so that's another way that the healing can be customized, is if they give me more information about what's going on with them, and I can figure out an essence that would complement the situation the best. So yeah, every treatment is different, and that's the nice thing about it. It's very, very personal. So different like therapists might have different approaches to that. I'm sure there's some that just use all the bowls all the time, or they might have a specific ritual, but I would do it differently for every person.
And are you studying like how they were using them a long time ago, or are you going by more by how you feel and your personal experience with the clients, or are you trying to make like, is there like someone in particular that you're studying? Because I have like a couple books just right over here, and it's like here's step 1, step 2, step 3, and then it'll also show like so it has like specifics, but it also says, you know, to kind of like go with your intuition also. So what's your source of information that you're going with?
Well, I have a teacher who went to Tibet and learned from someone who makes the bowls. And so I learned from him. He had specific methods and things that he taught us, even which hand to use the mallet with, and which direction to play the bowl in, and prayers and everything. So I learned from someone who went there. I haven't had the opportunity yet to go to Tibet or Nepal to learn firsthand, but I learned secondhand, and it is a very intuitive practice. And so my point of view is there's not really a wrong way to do it, especially if you're just doing it for yourself, which is awesome, I think, because once you get the bowl in your hands, like everybody has the power to heal themselves, and that's a very important thing to remember, is you never have to rely on somebody else to administer a healing technique. We all have the power to do self-healing, but sometimes it does help with a little extra intention from someone else or guidance from a therapist. But I really, like, personally don't think there's any wrong way to do sound healing as long as it feels good to you.
Yeah, that makes sense to me too. Just like the different kinds of other kinds of music, it might be awesome to someone, and someone else's, they just can't stand it. When I was looking through some of your videos, like last night or a few days ago or whatever it was, I think it might have been last night. I've seen a bunch of them, but you're also talking about Kundalini
Mm-hmm.
and like feeling that. Can you tell us like what that's like, what it is? What was that experience for you?
Okay, sure. I started learning about Kundalini after I started to experience it. So it's kind of funny. I started to go through this awakening experience more heavily, like probably about a little over 2 years ago. And that's when I started to have these physical symptoms. Like I mentioned in one of the videos that I started to have rashes on my body, like mainly around my stomach, and I didn't know why. And I couldn't really figure it out. I started playing with my diet to try to see if it was dietary. And then I learned later, after it went away, actually, that that is a Kundalini symptom, is unexplained rashes. And then the big event that really pushed me was last year in August. I had a outpatient procedure where I had to be under anesthesia, and it also happened to be the day of the solar eclipse, funnily enough. And I woke up from that, and I had like tears in my eyes, and I was just crying. Like I wasn't in pain or anything. I just was crying, and like tears were falling down. And I went home later, and I just got really, really sick. And it's because I had to take these medications after, and like my body was just rejecting everything. Like it couldn't take any more chemicals, and I had a bad fever and everything. And it wasn't because something went wrong during my procedure. I think what happened is, and I've heard stories about this, is when you're under anesthesia, basically you can be when you're in that state, your conscious mind is just totally asleep, you know what I mean? So your subconscious has like free reign to go where it needs to go without your conscious mind stopping it. So I think during that time I just got launched into this Kundalini energy, and the sickness and everything went away after like 24 hours. But I talked to one of my teachers, actually the one that taught me to learn about the healing bowls, not the one that went to Tibet, but a different one. And she was like, that's Kundalini energy, that's what it's like. And then everything started to piece together, it started to make sense. And I realized other experiences that I had that kind of just tied in with Kundalini symptoms. So that was a big catalyst for me. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that actually practice yoga and different things to initiate Kundalini energy and awakening, and they want to make it happen. But for me, it just happened that way. I wasn't trying to, so I can't help people to wake up their Kundalini. That's not really my thing, but I do seek to help people that already are in it and need relief from their symptoms or want to just even out their energy. So,
Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't heard the rash thing before. I had like these two, they're almost gone now. It's like still a little dry, but on each of my elbows, I had like these rashes, like just recently. And I'm like, where do these come from? And I was, I was in the woods. I teach kids classes, and we were kind of like running around out in the woods. Like my strength and conditioning classes, especially for kids, is a lot different than we might be chopping wood, running through the woods. We're doing all sorts of stuff, but we're like, so I'm like, how did I get? At first, I thought it might have been like a heat rash because I also have like this like regular kind of job and it's hot. So like maybe it's just like a heat rash or something like that. Well, that didn't really make sense. It didn't really, and it was just like it lasted for several days, and then it started looking like, well, maybe it's poison ivy. I'm like, well, why would I have poison ivy exactly on one elbow and the other one? Like that doesn't really make sense. I had poison ivy on one, that might make sense. Or maybe, but why would it be on the exact same spot on both arms? So maybe I'll have to like dig into that and see if there's. I wonder what that would mean because I think there's chakras in the elbows too. So maybe there's some kind of um, esoteric, emotional sort of thing playing out. Like what's going on here? I haven't heard that before. I've had some other experiences where I was wondering if it was Kundalini, and I can feel the microcosmic orbit. You know, I can feel that, and I can activate it and use it. If you kind of, you know what I mean. But and I can pretty much do that at will. And I had kind of like wondered before, like with the microcosmic orbit, does it have anything to do with Kundalini, or because it's kind of a different system, but it's still like going up the spine. It's still like, do you like compare the two, or are you like less familiar with that, or?
I'm not very familiar with the microcosmic orbit, but I know that the soul has a lot of things planned for us before we come here. So some people having a Kundalini awakening is something they already are programmed to have at some point in their life. And the movement of our solar system, sometimes that marks the time when it's going to happen, and certain things align to trigger it. So I know that when people are very interested in these kinds of things, it's sometimes um, a sign that that might be something that's in store for them. And so it could very well be that you have had a Kundalini awakening already, because it doesn't have to be this dramatic event. I know a lot of people tell stories about all these really intense experiences that they have due to Kundalini, but it doesn't have to be that way. It could be more subtle, especially if it's something that is pre-planned for you, for your soul. I think what I've heard is that people who actually try to make Kundalini awaken through specific practices are more likely to have kind of intense or unpleasant experiences, because you're supposed to be prepared metaphysically. Like if you are forcing it, or you really are trying to make it happen on your own, then I think that's why it becomes so traumatic for some people, because they're not really ready for it. So it doesn't have to be this crazy sickness that you have just because you have Kundalini awakening. It can be subtle as well. So that might be something you should look into.
Yeah, that makes sense to me because there was like something. Cause I've practiced like some Kundalini yoga, and there was part of me that's like, this is not. It was like the Yogi Bhajan style stuff, which I guess kind of got branded as Kundalini yoga, even though like all yoga should pretty much lead to this.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like I'm not sure that holding my arms up for 15 minutes is going to activate Kundalini. Maybe it will. I don't know, but I don't know. It's like, if this isn't true, then I'm wasting my time. Whereas if you just go into like a regular yoga class and it's like, okay, even if this other esoteric stuff isn't true, I'm still like moving. My movement is getting more fluid. I'm relaxing. I'm being mindful. It has a definite effect. It can be proven. But like when you're just kind of like taking somebody's word for it, especially someone that is probably a fraud like Yogi Bhajan, maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, but probably he was, I think, then you're like, you're following this one guy's method and like hoping that after however many years of practice, but some people really swear by it and they'll say they have, you know, the effects like of like a DMT kind of effect, hallucinogenic effect, psychedelic experience through this Kundalini Yoga. So I was like, maybe. I won't say it's like not true, but for me, it was just like, I don't know. There was one time, see what you think, I asked Himalaya. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her. She's kind of, you could like start by thinking of her as a yoga instructor, but she travels around and she's going to like different like, kind of like yoga happenings and teaching classes, and she has kind of like a dancey kind of style. But I told her about this and she had like a little different idea, but it was actually just over 6 years ago on July 3rd of 6 years ago, I quit like drinking and smoking weed and that kind of stuff. And I normally wouldn't even tell people at that time that I even like did smoke weed. It was just like with the guy I'd get it from, a few buddies, but if somebody I didn't know were to like ask me about it, no, I don't do that. It was just like something I would do, you know, in high school, everybody knew. But like after that, like it changed. I wanted to be more secret about it. So to even like admit it now is kind of weird for me, but it's been just over 6 years as of July 3rd. So when I was driving the cab, I started driving around this woman, but she like seemed like different. Like her Earth story, as I call it, was like she came here from India and she seemed to like know everything about spirituality. Like as soon as she would get in the car, we would immediately start talking about like spiritual stuff. And she wasn't like talking to me like like she was some guru with all the answers. She like seemed to know everything, but like in a very calm way and not preachy and so I knew that she didn't drink or smoke, but she didn't like tell me that I shouldn't. And I didn't even really talk about it with her. But like I saw her, I was taking her to work. And I usually take her to and from work, usually like Monday through Friday. So I was seeing her like twice a day, every day for I think like a few months, at least a couple months. And then I was reading in all these other books. I practiced Qigong also. And I kept reading like, well, if you want to get to this high level, if you want to get to the highest levels, you can't drink, period. Not like a little bit of wine sometimes, not like a beer, nothing. You can't do any of that at all, ever again. And so I kind of had it in my mind, but I was like, yeah, I'd get home and I'd have like a beer and I'd have like a little smoke. And then like getting to know her, and it was like something changed. I think like looking back, I think that she was like maybe like a bodhisattva or an angel or something, like not human. That's why I started out like her Earth story, because to say like she was from India and I was taking her to work at a bank, that I feel like I'm kind of lying about that, even though that should be the easy thing to, yeah, people come here from India and they work at a bank. It's not, what's so hard to believe about that? But for me, it almost seems like that's kind of like I'm making that part up, or that part's not real. But a bodhisattva, I feel like I'm really telling the truth about that, or an angel, I feel like I'm really telling the truth about that, and that's easy for me to believe. Like she worked at a bank, that's hard to believe, but she, you know, from some other realm is really easy. But the last time I saw her, like, and I like drop her off at her apartment, and we'd be like talking for like 20 minutes before she'd get out of the car. And like she was like walking away back up to her apartment, and like something like changed. Like I was able to like see my potential is the best way that, and I knew that I had to like make myself into a magnet for what I wanted to attract. And like these things just kind of like, it was like she just turned the dial. She didn't say you need to quit drinking or nothing like that. Didn't even talk about it at all. But like something changed. And so I went home and I had like my last beer. I didn't even like finish it. Last little bit of smoke. And then like I woke up the next day, and I'm usually like pretty mellow. I don't like talk a lot. I might go to like family events or be like at a party, and I'm not like super talkative and really quiet. But like that next day I woke up and I was just like, people would get in the cab and I was like, blah, 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 blah. And I was just talking like really fast. I was super hyper, and I'm not a super hyper dude at all. And, you know, somebody get in, I'm just like, just talking and talking, and I couldn't eat, but I started like drinking a lot of kefir. I'm vegan now, but at the time I was just vegetarian. So I was drinking a lot of kefir. I drink like 4 bottles a day. And my energy was just like going crazy. And I think so I didn't eat anything for like 5 or 6 days. And then like on the 6th day, I went to the movies with my son. I think I had like a few pieces of popcorn, like, and then like the next day I started eating again. And then I was able to like kind of like come back down and kind of like get grounded again and like start talking slower again, start like, so I like wondered like what, like, does that sound like a Kundalini thing to you, or does that sound like something else, or like what's your
You know what? It probably, whenever you have a surge of energy like that and it's very, very positive and uplifted, it's something that I like to refer to as an upgrade. So you could be experiencing a dramatic shift for a day or so like that because you're being infused with all this source energy and it's changing you. And sometimes afterward really tired, or you could just level out, but definitely sometimes it's hard to tell exactly what the change is that's happening to us when we experience something like that. But I mean, in my experience, usually after a few days you'll start to just come up with like epiphanies, or your perspective on certain things will change, and that's how you know the purpose of that like blast of energy that you went through. And the lady that you met that was riding around with you, she definitely could have been an angelic person, because all people, yes, we're all in human bodies, but we are all different kinds of beings outside of these bodies. So it's really interesting. And yeah, if you got that intuition about her, then it's probably true.
Yeah, and I never saw her again. I never heard from her again. That was the last day I ever saw her. So I saw her like every day, a lot of times twice a day, for to and from work. And then it was just like, all right, turn the dial. And then I guess I didn't need her anymore, or something like that. She already like turned the knob. And I don't know if you've ever seen the show Touched by an Angel.
Yes.
Okay, so you know, like the angels come to town. There's somebody that needs a change in their life, and they're just there. They make that change, and then it's time to jet. There's somebody else that needs something. So that's kind of like what she was like. She was like, all right, I need to be here. Okay, now I'm out. Now I'm on to the next one. I don't like need her anymore, I guess. It was really, really weird. And yeah, like the upgrade, I like that idea, because it was like things started like change after that. And it wasn't like I had like some big like drinking problem. It wasn't like I was like trying to pull myself out from rock bottom. I was drinking like, you know, a beer or two a day usually, and sometimes a little bit more. But it wasn't like I was just like in this despair and I mean, I guess you could call it like I was in like a rut compared to like what I've had going on since, but it wasn't like I had like some serious drug problem or anything. It wasn't that, but it wasn't doing me any favors either. And you can like see it like kind of unfold. It's like I knew that I couldn't have what I wanted if I was still doing that. The kind of woman that I want doesn't want a guy that does that. And so it's not like I'm trying to like change for some particular person in my mind, but it's just like, yeah, I had to, like the thing that like really settled is you have to make yourself a magnet for what you want to attract. And then we'll see what kind of comes in that way.
Yeah.
So when you're you seem to have like this, like you're almost like overwhelmed with joy, like in a lot of like these videos that I'm watching and just talking with you for this time. It's like you're almost like overwhelmed with joy. It seems. And were you like that before you got into all this stuff, or did?
Oh, well, you know what? I think that is part of my personality, and I'm very like goofy and happy most of the time. But I really got uplifted. Like, I have been going through the awakening process myself, and it's just so much easier to be that way because for me, I've had to shed a lot of heavier things. And what people don't know a lot of times is that when we are born and we go through our life, we actually have accumulated karma from generations before us in our DNA and experiences that we have throughout life that kind of weigh us down. And I think everybody is joyful that way. It just gets buried under the heavier, less pleasant realities that we go through. And for me, what I've come to understand about spiritual awakening is a lot of it is just letting go of heaviness and lower energies and dense energies. So that's probably why I appear that way. And I also always get really excited to share what I've learned with people. So it just gives me a lot of joy naturally.
Yeah, that's really good. How old are you?
I am 31 years old.
Okay. Where do you live?
I live in Gainesville, Florida.
Okay.
Yep.
And do you find the or is there like a community around there that like how big is the community around there that kind of like believes in the stuff that you do, or do they think that, oh, this chick is wacky, man? You have, I'm sure there's both, but like what's your community like?
Well, to be honest, I mean, I know there's a mix of different people with different beliefs everywhere, but I've never had someone just be like, well, I've had people in my own family be like, chakras aren't real. That's non-existent. but like whenever I've had conversations with people about it, most people around here are pretty open-minded, and I haven't really had any crazy debates or any bad experiences talking to people. But it's not like I actually put a lot of energy into educating people unless they ask me. I don't think that there's a lot of other sound healing and yoga combined therapists here, but I kind of just let people come to me and ask me. I don't really put it out there that much or try to change people's minds if they seem like they wouldn't be into this. So I haven't really had any issue finding people that were interested or anything like that. I just kind of let people do their thing. And if they want to know about it, then I'm so happy to talk about it. And if they don't, then we can have fun talking about something else.
Yeah.
So.
Like, what about like your friends? Are your friends? I know it's like your teacher. You learned from this guy, and like, do you have like a lot of friends that are into it, or are you?
Um, I have a lot of friends that love yoga. The sound bowl thing, again, it's not like a really super popular practice. I know there's a lot of stores here that sell them, and I'm sure there's lots of people that have them just for their own personal use. But um, I don't know, like my friends are pretty supportive, and a lot of them are really willing to try the sound bowl healing. And I don't know, it's pretty even, nothing crazy.
Yeah, I was just trying to get an idea of like what your kind of like your daily life is like, and your interactions with people, because sometimes like you're talking about like the throat chakra and being able to express yourself, and sometimes like we have different friends that uh like tonight I'm going to a buddy's house to watch the UFC pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
I don't talk with him about yoga stuff. We talk about fighting stuff. We
Yeah.
talk about martial arts. We'll talk about work. We'll talk about that kind of stuff, but we don't talk about this kind of stuff. We wouldn't be having this kind of, I wouldn't be having this kind of conversation with him. That's never happened. Highly unlikely that it's ever going to happen.
Yeah.
And then, but I might have, now I talk to you, and I'm not trying to talk to you about, oh, did you see that knockout? Oh, that was awesome. That dude's awesome, man. He's, so we're not, so it's interesting, this, like kind of like what we get from like our different friends, and like be able to express ourselves different way, because there is that the martial arts stuff. I mean, but then there's like this other thing. To me, it all kind of goes together. But I was just kind of like wondering like what your actual. Sorry,
Yeah.
what, I didn't hear that.
It's a balance. I am always fascinated to learn more and more about spirituality, but outside, like in my day-to-day life, I'm just like you. Like I talk about things that my friends are interested in, just day-to-day stuff. And I might kind of shy away from doing things that I feel like go against my beliefs. Like I won't really participate if someone is talking about things that make me uncomfortable. Like, I don't know, just talking about other people or being violent or something like that. But it's not like I spend all my time talking about this with my friends, because it's not a huge part of their lives. So yeah, that's one of the reasons I make the videos, is because I like to share what I know without forcing people to listen to it. Like if they're interested, then they can just click on it and hear what I have to say. And then if they don't like it, then they can just go about their day. But that's a good thing about all the media that's available to us, is we can really share and learn from each other without making people uncomfortable, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you like? Do you have a boyfriend? If so, is he into this kind of stuff? Or?
I I can't really say that I have a boyfriend, but I have a partner. I That's another topic, but like I'm very different from my partner in that way. So I don't spend a ton of time talking about this with him, but he's we have a lot of the same core beliefs, so it works out.
Yeah, we don't have to have like everything be the same with whoever we're with, and
Yeah.
can balance out different
Yeah.
parts of
That's
ourselves.
that's all that matters. There's a lot of different ways to say the same thing, and so yeah, just being respectful of people and how they see things and what they're comfortable with is important, because I think if we only spent time and had friendships and relationships with people that are carbon copies of us, then what would we be doing with our lives? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. You say you have a video series coming out?
Well, I have started it. It's all about the chakras. I have the 3 right now on Instagram. They're just clips, but I started making them before there was Instagram TV, so I'm starting to put them on Instagram
I
TV.
just heard about that.
Yeah, and I also am putting the videos on my website. So right now I've got the solar plexus chakra, heart chakra, and throat chakra, and next I'll be doing the third eye chakra, but I'm going to be going through all 7 by the end.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I just found out about the Instagram TV, I think just yesterday. So can you tell us like what you'll be able to do with that that's different than the regular Instagram 1 minute videos?
Yeah, just that I'll be able to put the full videos that I'm making on Instagram instead of just the previews. And they're a combination of information about the chakras, herbs that you can use and take, and foods that help heal those chakras. And then I also include some yoga moves, because some people, they already know about yoga and they don't need like a whole video about yoga. They just want to know what poses target that chakra. So that's the whole purpose. It's just to help people with their own self-healing practice.
Yeah, very cool. Like how long will these videos be? How long can the
They've varied so far, I guess between like 5 and 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to look into more of what you do. I've already been looking, especially like leading up to the show, like um, to know what to ask you about. But I can tell, like, so I'll like scan through Instagram to like find potential guests. So you can see like if like I've had like several yoga teachers on, some of them that I know personally, like in town, and then other ones. But like you can tell just like by, or I can um, like almost immediately, like if somebody's going to be would be a good guest. It's not just like the Warrior Two and the Sunset kind of stuff. Like you can find, 100 of those in the next 5 minutes if you wanted. It's like that, not necessarily like rules them out, but like what does somebody have that's a little bit different than, but it's like really authentic and good. And so that's how I found you. It was like right away I was like, oh, I kind of knew, and then I needed to start like looking more into you. So it's kind of interesting how that works. I was glad to have you on for sure. I'm about out of questions. I mean, it's like one of those things I could talk to you about it for another hour or 3 hours or whatever. I find the whole thing just very interesting from my own experiences and curiosity of like what is possible, and also like I try to get people's like personal story too. It's like, is your boyfriend into this stuff, or your partner into this stuff? What about your friends? What about your? It's not just like, what does this bowl do? What does that? I'm interested in actual the gas, like your actual like personal story. But is there anything that we haven't touched on? I guess we've been going about an hour. I mean, I'm not in any hurry. So if there was something that we haven't brought up that you want to talk about, we can do that.
No, that's all that I really had to say for now. And I really, really enjoyed it. This is my first time being a guest on a podcast. So it's been really, really cool. And I'm so glad that you reached out to me and picked me. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for being on. So how can people find you? How can they, like, what's your website, Instagram?
Okay. The website is www.singingstonehealing.com, and the Instagram is the Singing Stone. And yeah, my email address is up there. And if people have questions, they can get in touch with me. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. Any final thoughts for everyone? How would you like to end it?
um, just I just want to wish everyone a great day and a beautiful day, and I'm so glad that I got to do this show with you. So thank you for watching.
All right, thanks. And I will stop the recording. I'll talk to you for a second when we're done.
Okay, all right, bye.
All right, thanks again for being on. That was cool.